guys. Well, now I'm kind of curious. You know, the case of Christopher Watts has been absolutely confusing since I first heard about it. Well, there's a new video that was posted on YouTube by an actual mainstream media news source. And they're talking about the house. And they said that the house was put up for auction, but nobody wanted it. So Weld County took it out of foreclosure. And I find that to be rather curious because was it Weld County who foreclosed upon the home? I thought it was the lender who foreclosed upon the house. So how did Weld County take the house out of foreclosure? And in fact, I don't think it went to auction. So what's with saying that it was auctioned but nobody wanted it? Because that auction, that first auction that was scheduled, was canceled before it took place. And then there was a second auction scheduled, if you'll remember, if you've been watching this case for the last couple of years, like many of us have. There was a second auction coming up, right? And then that auction was canceled. So how can they say it was auctioned and nobody wanted it? Because it was never auctioned. It was removed from the auction schedule, right? Another thing that I find really interesting is the numbers that I'm seeing posted all over about the valuation of the home are not the same numbers that I remember seeing a couple years ago. So I did a little bit of digging. I also didn't find that second quitclaim deed that was posted on the public site back in September of 2018. It wasn't posted then initially. It was posted 1 month after filing for the bankruptcy. I think they filed for the bankruptcy in June of 2015. And then in July, the second quitclaim deed was posted online, right? And then in August, the bankruptcy was granted. So let's see here. You know, they're saying that Zillow says the house is worth almost $600,000. Well, I think we all know that Zillow is not a reliable pricing source. They go by certain records that they gather up and all, but pretty much, I mean, yeah, it might give you a rough ballpark, whatever, but come on, Zillow? Why didn't they go to the actual Weld County information, right? Which even then, like I've already said, seems kind of confusing because it seems like those numbers are different than the numbers we saw back in September of 2018. Well, be that as it may, Zillow says it's worth almost $600,000, and I say, blah, baloney. I think they should stick a price tag of $300,000 on that house and go ahead and sell it. You know, there's an entire neighborhood there that is now being harassed because of that stupid docudrama. And those neighbors are too afraid to show their faces on camera. They're too afraid to even give their names when they were interviewed. And they're saying there are literally hundreds of cars coming through that neighborhood, which is disgusting. What a disgusting example of human behavior, or I should say social psychopathology. Leave the neighborhood alone, for Pete's sake. Ugh, so disgusting. So many things about this case is just so disgusting. But back to that Zillow number. I thought it was interesting that in 2015, there was a huge jump in the value of the home. I'm not going by Zillow. I'm going by the actual, well, I can't really say actual. I'm going by the public records, okay? I'm wondering if perhaps there was an equity line of credit. You see what I'm saying? I bet you they were sucking whatever little bit of equity they had in that house in 2015 or maybe even late 2014 as they prepared evidently for a bankruptcy. Does any of that financial finagling bother you? Doesn't it bother you that they're in a brand new house and what, a year and a half later, they're walking away from over 70 grand in debt? Well, it would have been a couple of years later, I suppose. Well, 70 grand in debt doesn't just happen overnight, for Pete's sake. And if he, meaning Christopher Watts, was in such good financial shape in, what was it, May or something of 2013, that he could buy a house, whether it was 300,000 or 400,000, depending on how your memory works. If he could buy that house just fine, then must be he didn't have 70 grand of, unsecured credit dangling over his head, right? Or his income to debt ratio would have never flown for that closing. Something else kind of caught my attention too. Did you know? Well, I'll back up a second. You know how they had that court case scheduled, one of the two court cases? One was, I think it was August 24th of 2018, 11 days after the tragedy, that was scheduled for an ongoing family matter. Well, there was a second court hearing scheduled for unpaid HOA dues, right? And we were told over and over again that the unpaid HOA dues were for over $1,500 in unpaid dues. And remember, Christopher Watts' wife was supposedly saying that she must have mailed the dues payments to the wrong address. Well, then it seems to me like if someone files in court to try to collect the HOA dues, that the right address would have been on the paperwork, right? So I would think then she would have said, oops, wrong address. I'm going to go ahead and mail the payment for the dues to the right address, right? I think you can kind of catch my tone that I highly doubt that the HOA dues were unpaid because of any problem with figuring out what address they should be mailed to, right? Well, get this. We're told that they were being sued for over $1,500 in unpaid HOA dues. Well, in all of my little searching here, I see that the monthly HOA dues are only $54. $54. Do a little gazinta math, and it looks like from the time Christopher Watts bought the house, that HOA dues were not a priority at all. There's something wrong with that picture. Just like there's something wrong with all of these details that we're being told about the case of Christopher Watts. Just one more little tidbit I'm going to throw in. It has nothing at all to do with the house. But did you know that in September of 2018, I took a look on the Better Business Bureau site to look up some of the MLMs that Christopher Watts' wife had signed up for. And there was one that wasn't yet registered for the Better Business Bureau. And I found that to be really odd, because the news stories were telling us how this particular one was so successful and worth billions of dollars. And it wasn't registered yet with the Better Business Bureau, really? And so I commented on it in our little Facebook group that had fewer than 100 members. And 3 days later, that particular MLM registered with the Better Business Bureau.